Elliot Anderson is going to be leaving Nottingham Forest this summer, and this leaves a massive gap in their midfield. If you are unaware of his playstyle, Elliot is a hybrid 6'8" who has had a phenomenal season. He is shown to be elite in three different characteristics. He is elite at making passes in between lines, an elite progressive passer, which is very useful in a modern midfield. He is also extremely hardworking and relentless. He always keeps running. He is the engine of a midfield. And finally, he is elite at tackles and ground duels, with his extremely high work rate, and is able to win the ball effectively and make quick line-breaking passes. These are elite metrics for a midfielder, but who can realistically replace him at Nottingham Forest? When looking at some replacements, I wanted to compare 7 other midfielders who can realistically replace his production, that are actually realistic for Forest to sign. Using these 7 midfielders, I created 3 scatter plots to compare Elliot's key data to find which player the data says Forest should sign. The first player I want to look at is Tyler Morton, the 23-year-old English midfielder from Lyon. The former Liverpool youngster has broke out this year with Lyon and could potentially move back to the Prem. When looking at his passing stats, he is actually higher up than Elliot in these stats. He is shown to have more progressive passes and passes into the final third per 90. But this comparison hits a brick wall when looking at his tackling stats. Morton is much lower in tackles and duels 1 per 90. Elliot is clearly the better tackler. This also continues with his work rate, shown with Morton's much lower ball recoveries per 90. If your goal at Forest was to replace his passing production, you would have it with Morton, but his defensive actions are not up to par. The second player I want to look at is Hugo Sotelo, the 22-year-old Spanish midfielder from Celta Vigo. He is intriguing for the same reasons as Tyler Morton, as stats-wise he is phenomenal on the ball midfielder, showing to have the highest number of progressive passes per 90 in my group of players, but defensively he is far off Elliot, way below his tackling numbers. He does have an incredible engine as his work rate numbers are quite high, but his lack of physicality is his problem. Similar to Morton, if you want to replace Elliott's work rate and passing, Sotelo is a very cheap, solid option, but he is not good enough defensively to be a full replacement. The third player I want to look at is Kevin Denois, the 21-year-old French midfielder from Auxerre. He is different from the previous two. His stats show a lot more significant production when it comes to tackling than his passing. Tackling, he's up there with Elliot, but when it comes to his passing numbers, I do not see much promise in them. It could definitely be a system issue with him at a worse club who does not hold a ton of possession, but he is not a bad player to replace Elliott's defensive work, but not good enough to be a full replacement in my opinion. The fourth player I want to look at is Andre, the 24-year-old Brazilian DM from Wolves. Very similar stats to Danois before. He is excellent at his defensive actions as he is much more of a ball-winning midfielder. He can definitely replace Elliott's work rate as well, showing to be very hard-working and good at winning the ball back in midfield. He just is not the progressive passer you are probably looking for to replace Elliott fully. The fifth player I want to look at is Hayden Hackney, the 23-year-old English midfielder from Middlesbrough. He is heavily touted, and this is to do with his passing talent and his ability going forward. Very similar to Morton's numbers, as he has better passing numbers than Elliott this past season, able to replace that part of his game, but his tackling numbers are very worrisome. He is not consistently winning the ball back in midfield when compared to Elliott, and these are stats from the championship. So are they truly able to be compared to Elliott fully? Definitely seems to be a good player, but as a true replacement for Anderson, I do not think he is the best choice. The sixth player I want to look at is Alan Vieira, the 24-year-old Argentine midfielder from Porto. He is probably the most unrealistic of the bunch so far, as he is wanted by the top clubs in England, but if they fail to sign him, maybe Forest could push for him. Regardless, let's look at his stats. Passing-wise, he has quite similar numbers, able to showcase good progressive passing and passing in between the lines. His numbers also prove he has a high work rate and is able to run loads in a match. Tackling-wise, he is a great tackler, able to win the ball effectively in midfield similar to Elliott. He would be a very solid choice, but one that is definitely slightly unrealistic. However, I think my seventh option is a slightly better choice. The seventh player I want to look at, and the stats choice for replacing Elliot Anderson, is Kaishu Sano, the 25-year-old Japanese midfielder from Mainz. When I look at all the scatter plots I have created, he is constantly the one near the top of the rankings, showcasing how much of an all-around midfielder he truly is. He covers more ground than Anderson per 90, while having similar ball recovery numbers. His passing numbers are not as high as the others on the list, but he is right next to Anderson's numbers as well, showing he can absolutely break lines with his passing. Finally, his tackling numbers are also quite similar to Anderson's. He is the one player on this list who is truly realistic to sign that comes closest to the overall production of Elliot Anderson, and that is why I believe he is the perfect replacement for him.